Jai Vishnupad, Paramahamsa, Parivrajagacharya, Ashitarasata Shishimati Divine Grace, Abhay Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. ISKCON Founder Acharya, BPT Founder Acharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagavan ki Jai. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Bhagavan ki Jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 24, Renunciation of Kardama Muni. Text number 27. Aho papacyamananam nirayesvaira mangalai kalena bhuyasha nunam prasiddhanti ha devataha. Aho papacyamananam nirayesvaira mangalai kalena bhuyasa nunam prasiddhanti ha devataha. Aho papacyamananam nirayesvaira mangalai kalena bhuyasa nunam prasiddhanti ha devataha. Kalena bhuyasa nunam prasiddhanti ha devata. Aho papacyamananam nirayesvaira mangalai kalena bhuyasa nunam prasiddhanti ha devata. Word for word. Aho, oh, papacyamananam, with those being much afflicted. Niraye, in the hellish material entanglement. Svaihi, their own. Amangalai, by misdeeds. Kalena bhuyasa, after a long time. Nunam, indeed. Prasiddhanti, they are pleased. Iha, in this world. Devata, the demigods. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. Kardama Muni said, "Oh, after a long time the demigods of this universe have become pleased with the suffering souls who are in material entanglement because of their own misdeeds." Purport. This material world is a place for suffering, which is due to the misdeeds of the inhabitants, the conditioned souls themselves. The sufferings are not extraneously imposed upon them. Rather, the conditioned souls create their own suffering by their own acts. In the forest, fire takes place automatically. It is not that someone has to go there and set a fire. Because of friction among various trees, fire occurs automatically. When there is too much heat from the forest fire of this material world, the demigods, including Brahma himself, become harassed, approach the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and appeal to him to alleviate the condition. And then the Supreme Personality of Godhead descends in order. In other words, when the demigods become distressed by the sufferings of the conditioned souls, they approach the Lord to remedy the suffering, and the Personality of Godhead descends. When the Lord descends, all the demigods become enlivened. Therefore, Kardama Muni said, after many, many years of human suffering, all the demigods are now satisfied because Kapila Dev, the incarnation of Godhead, has appeared. Translation again, Kardama Muni said, "Oh, after a long time, the demigods of this universe have become pleased with the suffering souls who are in material entanglement because of their own misdeeds." Om Jnanatimurandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dheena Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Mukham Kharati Vachalam Pongam Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So, yesterday we read about how Kardama Muni approached Kapila Dev in a secluded place after the Lord appeared. So, after the Lord appeared, then Kardama Muni found the Lord in a secluded place and approached him, offered obeisances and spoke. So, the first thing that Kardama Muni is telling the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is none other than his son, he's telling Kapila Dev that just see, the demigods are now pleased. Because you see, the general tendency of us enjoying in the material world, in the lower modes of nature, is that we don't necessarily find happiness in other people's enjoyment. If it matches with our enjoyment, then we find happiness in other people's enjoyment. But if such happiness is not in relationship or not in sync with our enjoyment, then what is the natural tendency? Envy, jealousy, anger, so on and so forth. We try to stop their enjoyment because it's trying to disturb our enjoyment. But the demigods are not like that. You see, the demigods, their position is that of goodness mixed with the lower modes of nature, but predominantly goodness. So they're able to enjoy heavenly pleasure to their best of abilities. But they're still religious personalities, which means that they don't enjoy material nature like demons. They recognize that it belongs to Krishna, and yagna tat kamano nyatra loko yam karma bandhana taratam karma kaunteya mukta sangha chamachara. They understand that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. Isavasimidam sarvam yat kinchat jagadyam jagat. Everything belongs to the Lord and everyone has their quota. The demigods know this. They are Vedic personalities, civilized beings. They follow the Vedic system given by Lord Brahma himself, who has received it from Krishna. So they know how to perform their activities in relationship with Lord Vishnu. So they know how to perform sacrifice, and they know how to enjoy their senses by first pleasing the Lord's senses. But that is to say that they are not pure devotees. They still have some mixed desires within their bhakti, which makes them, as the acharyas mentioned, sakama bhakta, or those with kama, with desires. So they'll perform devotional service, but require something in return. So that is the demigod's position. But the demigod's position is such that they're always considering the welfare of living entities within the material world. That is their service. Because each of the demigods have a particular function within the or role of maintaining a particular element or function of the universe. Like Indra maintains the rains, Varuna maintains the waters, Vayu maintains the air, and so on and so forth. The sun provides sunlight. So each of them are providing all of these facilities in accordance with the Lord's desire. So the demigods are naturally being in the mode of goodness, being devotees of the Supreme Lord, regardless of whether they have desires or not. They are thinking of the well-being of the living entities in this material world. Because you see, they do not bother the Supreme Personality of Godhead unless it's absolutely necessary. Until it's absolutely necessary. But our mood is that, every time we come and disturb the Lord, I want this, I want that, give me this, give me that. Prabhupada says, our problem is that we think God is man proposes, God disposes. This is our problem. We think he's some order supplier. That he's like a demigod. You offer him some sacrifice and then he has to reciprocate accordingly. Like Hiranyakashipu, when he heard this death of Hiranyaksha, he pacifies his family members with Atma Tattva. He tells his sister-in-law that, don't worry, my brother was such a great warrior, he was such a great personality, but he's not the body, we're not the body, he's the soul. So he's gone to the next destination. So you do not have to fear, you do not cry. And he gives even the example of Yamraj coming as a small boy and preaching to the sons of a king known as Sudyumna. I think his name is Sudyumna. And this king, he dies on the battlefield, and his wives, they hold on to the body, not allowing the body to go for cremation. And so Yamraj appears there. Because their crying was so loud that it filled the universe, Yamraj appeared there in the form of a boy and gave them knowledge. And he appeared in the form of a boy because for these particular women who were absorbed in lamentation, they would not hear anything any adult person would say. But if they heard it coming from a son, or from a child that was the same age of their sons, they'd be astonished. How does this small boy know so much knowledge? And so Brahmaraj was able to use that preaching tactic to break their illusion. Anyway, so Hiranyakashipu gives this Atma Tattva to his sister-in-law, Mother Aditi, and to everyone there, all his associates. But later on, in that particular chapter, you see how Hiranyakashipu flips. And he gets so angry, he just says, just see this Lord Vishnu, he's like a child. Like a child, you give them a bit of candy, they do whatever they want. Like this Lord Vishnu, he's just doing whatever the demigods want simply because they worship him. See what a fool he is. They proclaim that he is equipoised and that he's not affected by good or evil, not affected by happiness and distress. But just see, after they appropriate him, after they worship him, he does whatever they want. So how whimsical this Vishnu is. We should just kill him. There's no point having him in this world. So that was the mood of Hiranyakashipu. And that mood generally comes in our devotional service. What's the use of the Supreme Personality of Godhead if I don't get what I want in my life? Right? Sometimes they call it revenge procrastination. When you work really hard and you don't have time for your own senses, then you decide, I'm just going to spend all my energy in doing whatever I like, not doing what I have to do, but just spacing out and doing whatever I like. They call it revenge procrastination. It's just when you let loose. You let loose your senses because you already engaged them in the duties for how many hours of the day. So in the same way, we have this tendency with devotional service. That devotional service is just simply another duty that needs to be performed. Okay, 16 rounds done. Like Prabhupada, there's one story, one anecdote that Shuddhikiti Prabhu says that one day Prabhupada was walking in his room and he was chanting on his bead bag. I think he might have been sitting down. Anyway, so Shuddhikiti Prabhu was watching Prabhupada, and Prabhupada finished the round and he put the bead bag down very emphatically. He put it down and Shuddhikiti Prabhu was shocked and he looked at Prabhupada, and Prabhupada, see, I finished my 16 rounds and I can do any damn thing. So he was imitating the Kanishta Adhikari. That our mood is that, let us do the bare minimum, finish it and move on with whatever I want to do. That is a lower tendency, or the tendency of a devotee in the lower levels of devotional service. Kanishta. Kanishta means one's faith which is pliable. When one's faith becomes very strong, like that of a Madhyama or of an Uttama, then one does not become shaken in circumstances. Of course, the difference that's given between the levels, in one place is mentioned one's understanding of Shastra, another place is mentioned one's, depending on the level of one's faith. So more faith, naturally both are interrelated. The more you know Shastra, realize Shastra, the more faith you'll have in the Lord, because realization is there. So with that faith, one progresses gradually in devotional service. Then we also hear of Shraddha to Prema. It begins with faith, and all the 9 stages of devotional service have faith increasingly invested in them. So the Kanishta has low level of faith, which means that they'll understand Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They'll worship the Lord, even in the higher stages of Kanishta Adhikari, the Adhikari, that they'll worship the Lord, recognize the Lord's position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they won't be able to relate to other living entities around them. Because they're still not clear and the heart's still not fully cleaned. And because of a lack of knowledge as well. So, the mentality or the mood is then that there's every opportunity for the desire for karma, desire for some gain from one's work to be contaminated within one's devotional service. So in other words, you'll just do the bare minimum. Any spare time you have in your day, you'll just do whatever you like with it. This time for Krishna, this time for me, bas. That's it. So that's the nature of one who is practicing devotional service on the lower platforms. Prabhupada says you don't have to be an Uttamadhikari to be a pure devotee. This is in his Nectar of Devotion series. A pure devotee is just simply a devotee who desires only for Krishna. Only for Krishna's pleasure. That's a pure devotee. Whether they're Madhyama or Uttama, that depends on their level of understanding of Shastra. So Prabhupada gives that understanding as well, that a pure devotee can be a person who just simply thinks only for Krishna's pleasure. Now, the reason why I'm coming to this point, or I have come to this point, is that this is akin to the level of the demigods. Of course, we don't pull the demigods down to our level, and that's the biggest offense. The demigods perform their activities and they're on a higher sense. And their level of devotion is so high, although it may be mixed with material desires, that they get to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They descend to perform activities within His Leela also. They're given front row seats in Krishna Leela. Are we given such an opportunity? Yes and no. Yes, we're not directly there. No, we're not directly there. And yes, it's mentioned that Krishna left Bhagavatam for us to be able to relish such Leela, because we weren't there at that time. It's the same thing as being there at the same time. So yes and no. Depends on what angle of vision you want to take. So this is the nature of the demigods. Although they may not be like us in one sense, that we are completely geared towards enjoying the senses. Any small fraction or opportunity to enjoy the senses, for the senses to come in contact with the sense objects, we take it. We're that unfortunate. And you realize you'll be there, you'll be focused, you'll be, say for example, taking darshan. And within a fraction of a moment, the mind can just take you somewhere. That agitation of the mind is so strong. So the demigods, they are also devotees. They also have the para dukkha dukhi, that they also feel distress when they see others in distress. So therefore, the demigods are not pleased seeing the suffering. The demigods are pleased seeing the Supreme Lord who has appeared to alleviate the suffering of the living entities. Therefore, Kardama Muni is saying that it's Kardama Muni's way of approaching the Lord and offering Him humble prayers, glorifying the Lord. And he glorifies Him by saying that you have appeared to alleviate the suffering of material conditioned souls. And he's saying that now you have appeared, all suffering has disappeared. So he's glorifying the Lord because the Lord has appeared simply to Payachanaya sadhanam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanataya sambhavam yuge yuge. That's his purpose. And by glorifying the Lord for his purpose, the Lord is pleased because yes, he understands why I'm doing this. And if someone understands why the Lord is doing this, then naturally they will act in such a way to assist the Lord in His service. Rather, assist the Lord in serving Him to perform His function or perform His activities. So what is this problem that the material conditioned souls are experiencing? The sufferings are not extraneously imposed upon them. Rather, conditioned souls create their own suffering by their own acts. So it's mentioned that this material world is not something that the Supreme Lord wants to create or wanted to have for the enjoyment of the living entities. Like a child cannot or does not listen to the parent and wants to enjoy, so the parent naturally lets them go, of course on some sort of leash, to a certain extent, so that they learn a lesson and come back. Prabhupada gives the example that when he was a householder, that his son wanted to touch the fan blade while the fan was running. And again the child was going and wanting to touch the fan. And Prabhupada was constantly pulling him back. Then his friend suggested, why don't you turn off the fan, put it on low, and let your son go and touch it. Once it hits his finger, he'll feel a little pain, he won't do it again. And that's what Prabhupada did. And when the child came and touched the fan and the blade hit the finger, he felt the pain, he started crying, he never touched the fan again. So in the same way, unfortunately, our mentality is like that. But we are so foolish that we forget again. We're muda janmani. That's our problem. Lifetime after lifetime, we forget the mistakes we do. And lifetime after lifetime, we again make the same mistake. That's why Maya is so powerful. Avaranatmika and prakshamatmika. That she covers and she drags us down. Covering is not enough. If you cover and uncover, then again, I'm Krishna. I'm servant of Krishna. Jive Krishna Das, right? I am soul, it's easy. But she drags you down. Not only she makes you forget who you are, she makes you think who you are not. And makes you act on that platform. And that is the cause of our suffering. Because what happens is that causes or sets us up for future bodies. That continuously sets us up for future bodies. Here's an example. It's mentioned that when you perform devotional service, by the time you reach 40, 50, so on and so forth, compared to the karmis, your desire for the material world will completely drop down. Desire for worldly objects, desire for anything in the material world is completely reduced. Because by performing devotional service, your whole operation or focus becomes completely changed. From rather enjoying the material world and trying to enjoy it to the best of your ability, it goes towards trying to give Krishna pleasure and detachment from the material world. So what that means is that a person performing activities, Prabhupada says this in so many lectures, and it's an embarrassing point, that even to the point of 50 years old people are still trying to enjoy their senses, as if they're young people. They'll pay anything to go to topless, bottomless bars. You hear that? Prabhupada says it all the time. That they waste their time playing chess and all these other useless, frivolous activities rather than engaging in Krishna's service. Why? Because up until the age of that, they say, Prabhupada says, ripe old age. Not really ripe, but up until that old age, what happens? They're continuously trying to engage the senses, burning day and night, trying to enjoy the senses. That till the point they get to the age of 50, 60, what happens? The body no longer cooperates. The senses themselves deteriorate, but the desire to enjoy is so strong. It burns day and night. So this in one sense is another forest fire. This is a part of the forest fire material existence, this constant burning, hankering and lamentation to enjoy the material existence. And the reason why I'm mentioning this particular example is because that burning desire sets them up for the next life, another material body. It's guaranteed, because what happens at the time of death? Oh, I haven't had enough time to enjoy. I didn't get enough time to enjoy. I still have so many things to do. Prabhupada gives the example, one businessman told a doctor that just give me a few more years, a few more months. I have not finished what I wanted to do. Just few more months. I'll give you whatever money you want. Prabhupada gives that example also. That see how foolish he is. Even if the doctor took the money, there would be no guarantee he'd be able to extend the life. Once you're done, it's done. You're out of here. But that attachment is so strong that it causes one to even come back, Prabhupada says, as a mouse in the same family, the same house, a dog. To protect, bow wow, Prabhupada says, that he'll want to protect his family members and the money that he has accrued in his previous life. So this is not something that the Lord has pushed upon the soul. Because naturally you think, we're stuck here, we're suffering. Whoever's above us should pull us out, but we're not being pulled out. No, it's because of our own acts, we are stuck here. The forest fire takes place automatically, Prabhupada says. Why does that take automatically? Of course, we have experience here in Australia that there have been forest fires set up by foolish living entities playing with fire. But that's like us. We don't go somewhere to set the fire intentionally, right? Who does that? Do you set up your life so that you fail? Nobody does that intentionally, but it happens because the material world is extremely cruel. It is so cruel that material nature will set you up to enjoy. And you'll have everything ready, appearing that, you've set everything up, you're ready to enjoy, and she'll immediately crash your project, crash your endeavors. Like Prabhupada gives one example, that I built my house, by the sea, but now it's been destroyed by fire. Can you imagine? I don't know how many of us have gone through building a house or seen it. It's such an arduous activity. You have to plan what you want in your house. You need to go through the architectural designs. You need to go through so many iterations. You have so many dreams. Yeah, I'll do this. This will be there. That will be there. This will be satisfied. That will be satisfied. This room for this function. That room for that function. These people will live here. That people will live here. I'll get this much money from that person. I'll get that much money for him or her living there. And so many dreams, so many expectations are built. The house is built. Once the house is built, you have to make sure it's built properly. You've got to get the certification. You've got to go there and make sure it's structurally sound. You've got to make sure everything is there. You've got to furnish it. You've got to make sure you know what room you're going to use for what. You'll invest time in a certain room, you'll get attached, and then fire comes, destroyed. Finished. All that time, all that endeavor gone within a moment. Finished. Prabhupada says this is how any form of life works, but especially the human form of life. It just simply goes in chasing. Because how foolish we are? We struggle so hard, we get baffled. We get completely bewildered. But Maya shows us the person on the other side. See, they're enjoying. You see that person? He or she is enjoying. What have you done? Just one mistake, It's okay, that one mistake, you just correct and you continue. You try again, it's okay, it's all good. Then you go and try again, and again from other angles you'll come and slap, finished. It's mentioned the way we are, how foolish we are, is that we are like a goat or a lower living entity, putting our heads lying on the lap of Maya. And Prabhupada says this as an example, that the livestock will come and put their head on the lap of the owner, the farmer, and lovingly look up at the farmer. But what will the farmer do eventually? Cut its throat. In the same way, Maya does the same thing. We take shelter. It's her thankless task. What can she do? You make the mistake, now she's got the service to cut your throat. And we blame her for it. How foolish we are. And so this is the nature of material existence. That this place is not for any saint, like Prabhupada says, that is Guru Maharaj says, that the material world is not for any gentleman or lady. It's not a place for any gentleman. Like for example, you see, and this always comes, this example always comes to mind whenever I remember this point, that when Prabhupada was in the Avalon ballroom, when Prabhupada had reached San Francisco and there was the Montreux rock dance concert, this is the first event, big event in San Francisco as soon as Mukunda Prabhu and Mukunda Maharaj and all the other devotees had set up San Francisco. Prabhupada enters, he chants Hare Krishna with Allen Ginsberg on the stage, and as he's leaving, what is the most famous thing he tells his disciples? This is no place for a brahmachari. That's what Prabhupada says, no place for a brahmachari. So what is it? Prabhupada's saying, I literally walked through fire to set up ISKCON. I shed gallons and gallons of blood and tears to be able to set up ISKCON. To bring a devotee, that's Prabhupada says, a Vaishnava will shed gallons and gallons of blood and tears just to make one devotee. Because it's hard. The material existence is so tempting. And when living entities don't want to take to devotional service and taste the bhakti ras, what else do they have? What option do they have? The false reflection of enjoyment in the material world, that's it. Prabhupada gives the example of a donkey. You see, what are the three famous examples Prabhupada gives of a materialist or Bhagavatam gives? There's the dog, there's the donkey, and then there's the camel. Three famous examples given in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And what is the dog like? Prabhupada says, you see, the dog develops so much, the dog-like, Prabhupada says, dog-like academics. They'll go and they'll perform their research and speculation, mundane speculation and research, and they'll perform all these activities and get a degree. But all this material education is useless if they don't get a job. Again, act of Maya. You work so hard, you don't get a job finished. All your endeavor is such a waste of time. Shrama eva hi kevalam. That's it. So this is the dog. And it has to go and wag its tail against master, and then they'll accept him as a servant, and then it'll be able to perform its duty. And the dog will work very hard in that way. What's the ass or the donkey? The donkey will work so hard for just a meager amount of grains or grass that is easily available everywhere. But it won't have them. And you know what Prabhupada says in one lecture? This is in LA, and it's on this particular verse, second canto, I forgot the verse and chapter. I think it's verse number 19, 18th chapter, or second chapter. Second chapter, second or third chapter. There it's mentioned, Prabhupada saying that on this verse, Prabhupada saying that the ass, its mentality is that it'll work so hard for a small piece of grass. Why? Even though grass is available everywhere. Because the donkey is so foolish, he thinks the master is dependent on me. Just see. This poor fellow, if I let go of the service, he won't be able to do anything. Anyway, he's giving me some grass, and it's such tasty grass. Okay, I'll do this service for him. What a fool, right? That's the nature of the living entity. And then there's the camel. Camel eats thorns. And the thorns, they have no taste, but the thorns cut the tongue and blood comes. And tasting that blood, oh, wonderful, so nice, right? It's the same thing as the living entity. They'll suffer so hard. And then when they get a little bit of happiness, comparison to that struggle of work, they'll think, oh, so tasty, so nice. But to get that small sliver of happiness, they have to suffer so hard. And that suffering so hard, and that happiness is just simply a relative form of distress, that's all. You suffer so hard, and you get another form of distress is very small, meager, you'll think that's happiness. That's the same thing with the camel. It'll suffer hunger so much, it'll go eat the thorns, and when the hunger is slightly satisfied with a bit of blood coming from the tongue, yeah, it was worth the effort, Good. Pat on the back, yeah. That is the nature of the materialist. And this is the nature of the conditioned soul in the material world. That you don't want fire, but fire will come. And I don't know why, but I find that point very, that example I remember very strongly. That I endeavored so hard, it's just a simple sentence. I endeavored so hard to build a house, and now it's destroyed by fire. And now it's destroyed. How much hopes, how much desires, how much investment of energy went into that? finished. One shot, finished. Our family will, like Prabhupada gives the, Prahlad Maharaj gives the example that Bala Shineha Pitaro Nrsimha, that one cannot take shelter of father, because who knows when the father will leave, whether the father is qualified or not. Right? One cannot take shelter of medicine, because medicine eventually cannot help us from death. In the same way, he gives many examples. And in this particular section, Prabhupada explains that how sometimes even children are the cause of distress. You will amass so much amount of money to be able to maintain family life, and within a moment the child will have some sickness, prolonged disease, everything gone. Of course, this is from an analytical point of view. We're not going from a emotional or from a humane point of view. That of course, we're not reducing the relationship of a child and the parent simply to money. But the point I'm trying to make here is that all that endeavor, we struggle so hard to maintain a relationship in this material world, and finished in one shot. Maya will come and knock everything down. And we are so foolish that we again set everything up. And here's an example. Hariswari Prabhu and Prabhupada, they were in one particular place. I think this is in the Dham, I think, or else this is in LA. And Prabhupada was doing his translation, and Prabhupada rang the bell. And as soon as Hariswari Prabhu heard it, he ran into the room. And Prabhupada said, look, I'm doing my translation, but there's some sound, some noise coming from outside. And then when Hariswari Prabhu and Prabhupada went to look, it's one bird, and it's trying to build a nest. Have you ever experienced what it's like to sit in a room where a bird is trying to build a nest? You see in the gutters of a building, there's this gap. The gutter is there. And that gap is a perfect place for warmth and building a nest for a bird. And you see all these miners, these Australian miners, Indian miners rather, all of these ones, oh, that's a cockatoo. The miners, they make so much noise, and then they'll all live in that small corner. And if you live in the room where that corner is, you'll never be peaceful, because you'll always hear scratching. You'll always hear scratching. They'll fly in, they'll make noise, they'll scratch, they'll put this angle, they'll try to put the blade of grass or twig in that angle, this one, this one. They'll make noise, never peaceful, never satisfied. They're always disturbed by having these birds there. So Prabhupada was trying to do, and this bird was coming in, going out, coming in, making noise, going out. So Prabhupada said, do something about it. So then what Hariswari Prabhu did was, when the bird left, he removed because it was just about to build the nest, he pulled out all the twigs and closed it. And the bird came back, looked, realized nothing is there, then flew away. And so they thought, Hariswari Prabhu thought, okay, done. Then again Prabhupada rang the bell, he came back and looked. Again, the bird came back and put more twigs in there. Again, started building again. And so Prabhupada says, do something about it. So then Hariswari Prabhu, what he did was he removed the nest, and he got some paper and jammed the hole very tightly. He jammed it so tightly. And so the bird came, and from distance, both of them were watching. Prabhupada was sitting down, and Hariswari Prabhu was just finished the work. The bird came back. The bird looked at what was happening. It pecked the paper, tried pulling, looked for some time, and left and never came back. And what was Prabhupada's vision? What did Prabhupada, of course we'll never understand what Prabhupada saw, but fraction he explained to Hariswari Prabhu, just see, this is just like the living entities within the material world. You see this bird, it tried so hard, but now he doesn't know what happened, why this has happened, who is doing this, he doesn't know. All she's seeing is that something is there, blocked, now I can't do anything about it. In the same way, the living entities are struggling in material existence, and they don't know that they're being obstructed by material nature, by time. That is how subtle material nature works. You don't see it until the very end. You don't see like a perfectly arranged plan or revenge. You don't see it coming till the very end. Maya does that. You don't see it coming until the very end. Therefore, you'll end up realizing, Shrama eva hi kevalam. All that endeavor becomes useless, completely destroyed. Welcome to material existence. We signed on the dotted line, and we told Krishna, I know how to enjoy better than you in this material world. You enjoy spiritual energy, I'll enjoy material energy. It's mine, that's yours. Hare Krishna. And we came to this material world in that way. Krishna Bulia Jeev, Boga Vancha Kare. Forgetting Krishna and wanting to enjoy, we came to this material world. Nikitasta Maya Tare, Japatiya Dare. We came close to Maya. What did Maya do? She's giving one big slap. Japatiya Dare. And what we are saying? Wow, such enjoyment. So happy I am in this material world. This is the foolish nature of the conditioned living entities. So therefore, seeing this, and this is just us in Martya Loka, the demigods in the heavenly planets seeing us like this, how much they'd feel. They feel so disgusted, they don't even want to touch the same ground we touch. They don't even touch the floor when they come and descend to this particular planetary system. And they don't even want to appear in Kali Yuga. Before they would appear in Yagya and everything, now they don't even want to appear. You guys do whatever you like, leave us alone. Because that's how degraded our condition has become. We've become to the level of animals, although we are meant to be human beings. Civilized human beings. Being human being is not enough. We need to become civilized human beings. So, and what is it to be civilized? It means to be Krishna conscious. That is real civilization. The real definition of the word Arya. So here Prabhupada is saying when the Supreme Personality of Godhead descends, in other words, when the demigods become distressed by the sufferings of the conditioned souls, they approach the Lord to remedy the suffering and the Personality of Godhead descends. You see, Krishna doesn't easily give love of himself. To the extent that Krishna himself appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his own devotee, to give it. And he doesn't appear at all times. He appears once in the day of Brahma, just after his appearance as Krishna. At least in this particular cycle. So Krishna does not easily give devotional service as he has given now as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's very rare. This is the nature of a devotee. The nature of a devotee is that they realize all of these things. If you see someone making a mistake, the general tendency that the tendency that comes within the heart, that should come in the heart is, I should help. But being contaminated by the modes of nature, what do we think? He deserves it, or I'll help if there's some gain for me. But the devotees are not like that. The devotees know that the real gain for all living entities is Krishna's pleasure. If I help this devotee, Krishna will be pleased, I will be satisfied, that person will be satisfied. End of story. I am doing the best welfare for this living entity. So the nature of the devotee is paradukha dukkhi. They're always thinking of how I can benefit the living entities. How I can serve Krishna and assist him. Like Haridas Thakur told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was thinking, I have descended within this material world to liberate the souls. But it's not how much I can do. So then Haridas Thakur says to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that, my Lord, don't fear. The particular instance that comes to mind is that when Mahaprabhu actually complains, he complains to Haridas Thakur that, I've come here to deliver living entities, but it's not happening. And Haridas Thakur says, don't worry, my Lord, you have given the holy names. You have preached and given us the holy names. And then he's mentioning that, what about the non-moving living entities? Haridas Thakur says, you see, when you chant, and then there's an echo, that echo is the chanting of the non-moving living entities, like the trees and plants. So you're also benefiting them. See, the devotee is consoling the Lord. You see, this is the mentality of devotee. They're so absorbed how I can please the Lord, how I can give him pleasure, that someone like Haridas Thakur is consoling Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that just see, it's okay. Another situation is very funny, actually. One time Mahaprabhu was in the mood of Nrsingadev, and he took some sort of club or some sort of stick, and in that mood he started roaring and running around throughout the whole village. And as he was running and roaring, everyone started running away in fear. And Mahaprabhu was just going wild, running in the street, roaring very loud. And then when he came to his senses, when he came to external consciousness, he realized everyone was running away and everyone was scared. And very dejected, he walked back to Shiva Sangan. And he told Srivas Thakur, what is this? Just see. I've come here to deliver the living entities, and look what I've done. I've gone and chased them away. And Srivas Thakur actually glorifies the Lord. Actually, my Lord, what you have done is given great mercy upon the living entities. Anyone who is there, they're immediately liberated seeing you in this ecstatic form. See, again, devotees consoling the Lord. So the nature of the devotees like that. They give devotional service. They give bhakti to the suffering living entities. And recently I was reading, and I was surprised, I read this the second or third time in Srimad Bhagavatam. The first time I forgot the instance. The second time is when, I think the first time is when Tirtha Kurvanti Tirthani Swantastena Gatabrata. That's when Vidura meets, was it Vidura meeting Maitreya that he says this, or to Uddhava? I can't remember. And then, or actually this is Sonaka Rishi talking to Sutta Goswami. Then again in the 10th canto when Krishna is in Kurukshetra, Krishna speaks to all the sages and tells them, you know, by taking bath, by seeing a devotee, one is completely purified. That cannot be even achieved by taking repeated baths in Ganga. And again, in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Shiva tells Markandeya Rishi the same thing. That the purification of sinful reactions, the alleviation of material distress, just by seeing you cannot be obtained even by taking repeated baths in Ganga. The point here is that Ganga, it's not that Ganga's not, Gangamaya is not potent. That's not the point. The point here is that devotees are so powerful that it doesn't, because by taking bath in Ganga, the way it works is like this. Prabhupada says in Kolkata, there is Ganga. Ganga is flowing there. But people of Kolkata won't go to Ganga to take bath there. They'll go all the way to Prayag to take bath in Ganga. And they'll come back to Kolkata and they'll do their nonsense, Prabhupada says. The mentality is wrong. Ganga Maya is extremely potent. That if someone takes bath or bathes in Ganga Maya, they can get love of Godhead and they can go back to Godhead immediately. But it's up to the mentality, it's reciprocation. It's based on a reciprocation. If you go to Ganga looking to exploit Ganga as some sort of prayaschitta or atonement, Mother Ganga will reciprocate accordingly. Of course, Mother Ganga is a devotee and she'll give opportunity of pure devotional service. But according to the level or degree of consciousness one is at. Anyway, for a pure devotee, they'll become even more compassionate, that they'll give devotional service directly. Right? Which, in one sense, they know how to cheat the living entities of their material existence. Right? Tamal Krishna Maharaj says, what did Prabhupada say? He's the expert cheater. What did Prabhupada say? You just come, just chant, dance, feast, everything is fine. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj says, Prabhupada said all of that, we came, and Prabhupada started making us GBC. Prabhupada started giving us responsibility. Prabhupada started making us do devotional service like this, one after the other. If you told anyone, come, you're in charge of Food for Life, now go. Nobody will come. But you say, come chant, read. Like, there's one devotee, Atul Krishna Prabhu, everyone knows him very well. He said that when he came to Krishna consciousness, it was at university, and he just met the devotees they were doing Food for Life there. And one devotee just dragged him on and made him do some service with him, to the extent that he ended up becoming head of FFL. And that's how he became devotee. So you see, devotees are very powerful. They know how to bring someone into devotional service, how to alleviate all of this. And the demigods knew, these living entities, no hope. We need to bring the Lord Himself. He'll give the knowledge, He will disseminate that knowledge, we'll use that knowledge and disseminate it further. And so this is the mood of the demigods. They are so conscious or compassionate considering the living entity's condition that they themselves go to the Supreme Lord hoping to alleviate such suffering. So that's the point of Kardama Muni's prayer today. After many years of human suffering, all the demigods are now satisfied because Kapila Dev, the incarnation of Godhead, has appeared. Right? So this is Kardama Muni's opening prayers. Opening prayer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It doesn't look like glorification, but it's a great glorification. He's glorifying the demigods and he's glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead for their compassion on the living entities. Okay, so I'll end here. If there are any comments or questions, we can take them.
Thanks for the class.
Hare Krishna.
Paramatma is in every living entity and He knows the suffering of the jiva.
Yep.
Will He be pleased and fast
Mm-hmm.
and they actually appeal to him looking at the distress of the living entity. So will he be pleased on their prayers? I mean, Paramatma already knows, right, that we are actually suffering, all the jivas are suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any reason behind, the demigods actually appealing to the Supreme Lord? And does it actually fast forward this dissension?
Okay, so there's two parts. One is that is there any need for the demigods to even pray if the Lord knows people are suffering? And the second is that does it even affect the Lord's attempt or his dissension? The first half is that the Lord appears according to time, place, and circumstance as he desires. Parchanaya sadhanam vinishaya chadushkritam. So he knows when to appear. And the demigods appealing to the Lord to appear, in one sense, is part of his Leela. It's one sense part of the Lord appearing within the material world. But at the same time, in relationship to the second half of the question, yes, it fast forwards. In one sense, you can take it this way: the Lord knows exactly when to appear. How it happens, only the Lord knows. So whether it's by the demigod's prayers, by his own desire, by the desire of living entities, only the Lord knows. And how does it fast forward? I'll give you an example of Narad Muni. You see, Narad Muni, after Krishna had, I think he had killed Arishtasura or Keshi. Krishna appeared before, Narad Muni appeared before Krishna, and he addressed Krishna, and he told Krishna that you will do this, you will do this, you will do this, you will do this, you will do this. You'll go and defeat Kamsa, you'll go and kill the elephant, Kuvalayapid, you'll break the bow, you'll then go and get the earrings for the demigods from Bhaumasura. He tells him everything. Why? The Acharyas mention the reason why Narad Muni, Gopinath doesn't know what he needs to do. He tells him because he wants to fast forward, because the Lord will stay in Vrindavan. But Narad Muni, out of his eagerness, he wants the other living entities to also, he wants to finish the burden in the material world. He wants living entities to prosper and to get devotional service. So what does he do? He hypes it up. He reminds the Lord, my Lord, remember you came for this, you came for this, you came for this. And the Lord, oh yeah, I came for this. That's why immediately after, Akrura comes the next day, or shortly after, and then takes him to Mathura to continue his pastimes. Otherwise, the Lord always stays in Vrindavan. But, you see the Leela there? The Lord is giving Narad Muni the opportunity to take that role. In the same way, Kshirodakashayi Vishnu gave the opportunity to Brahma, to Mother Earth, and all the demigods to appeal to him on the shore. So they take it as their devotion.